Higher prices and emptier wallets ahead of a U.S. government debt default that will leave 66 million Americans left out in the cold, alone, searching for answers and left waiting, with their life in the balance and at the whims of elected officials. Politicians that only pretend to give two shits about our well-being, but at the end of the day, they only care about one thing, and that's their money and themselves and getting votes. All right, well, their main concern lies within making millions and millions of dollars and destroying this country and the people that call it home in the process. The clock is ticking, and June 1 is the X date deadline. Warnings of a complete government default as America is unable to pay its bills and essentially go bankrupt. And the bad news is that it isn't the worst part of it all. Now, for the sake of time, I will hold off on discussing the ongoing waste of money and taxpayer dollars and save the whole proxy war and international money laundering disguised as global conflict between Russia and Ukraine for another video. Comment down below if you want to see that video. And instead, focus on the never-ending list of bad news that we have available to us that lands on the soil of this once great country. Well, aside from the challenges of continued racism, both systemic and blatant hatred, targeted towards those who were forced into chains and bondage to slave away in hot fields for little to no wages and then only to face unbelievable amounts of discrimination then and still now to this day. Although it has taken on a slightly different form. A blade by any other name would cut as deep. And before I get into the bad news and list of current and future problems that I have to share with you all in this video, I want to thank you all for your continued support. Thank you. So, Walmart is at it again and calls grocery inflation the biggest issue facing consumers. Consumers who are already struggling and facing tough challenges with little to no available resources to afford life's basic necessities like food, water, shelter, healthcare, let alone discretionary spending for things like new flat screen TVs, vacations, or Brazilian butt implants and Kylie Jenner lip injections. Walmart says that shoppers' wallets are getting squeezed among stubbornly high food prices. And as I said before, this is going to be the exact reason behind why food shortages will occur. And it won't be because there will be a lack of food availability. It will be because food is going to be too expensive to buy and purchase. Granted, we could potentially see a point in time where food isn't available, shortages could exist, empty shelves at grocery stores yet again, all based on the actions or inactions rather by the government in an attempt to further destroy the people of this country and drive greater distance between the wealthy and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, a push to wipe out the middle class and force many Americans into poverty. And this just in, my wife, White, shared this tweet with me that appears to show CNN reporting that the NAACP warns African Americans to avoid Florida, saying the state has become openly hostile to Black Americans, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus individuals. Advisory warns blacks from visiting or moving to the state of Florida, alleging Governor Ron DeSantis is attempting to erase Black history. Here, check out this clip posted on Charlie Kirk's Twitter that appears to be a broadcast from CNN.
Advisory for Florida, and it's urging the Black community to avoid visiting or moving to the Sunshine State. According to the statement, the advisory comes in direct response to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' quote, aggressive attempts to erase Black history. And it calls Florida openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and the LGBTQ individuals. CNN has reached out to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for comment, but did not receive.
Wow. That's bizarre, shocking, and alarming. I guess I'm gonna have to begin to pack my bags and relocate after I'm done recording this video and move to a much friendlier state that is more accepting of Black people and the alphabet communities. Because apparently they are all lumped into one category and are one in the same. Now, for more info, check out the original poster's Twitter account. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. Now, please forgive me. I do not mean to be rude, but I get distracted easily. But there is just so much bad news out there that it is sometimes hard to keep up and stay focused. I mean, it's almost like they want to see us fail or even die and become extinct, more or less. But on top of the higher prices for food and groceries at Walmart, and including even those that lists warnings of the known risks of ingesting and consuming the dangerous cancer-causing chemicals as key ingredients, Walmart is also closing another batch of stores to wipe out local economies and destroy cities like Chicago, Albuquerque, and Portland, just to name a few, all from the inside out. Walmart is closing 20 stores in 11 states, and the closures have been announced in recent months and generally include locations that are considered underperforming. And the nation's largest retailer is also closing 5 e-commerce fulfillment centers across the U.S. and some of its pickup-only locations as well. Now, they say underperforming, but we all know why these communities are being targeted, and only certain demographics are being negatively affected by these billion-dollar retail corporations pulling out. And with their departures taking away jobs, income, check cashing, fresh food, fruits, and vegetables, and so much more with them as they board up buildings and retain the property, which will prohibit any other business from moving in its place. Way to go, Walmart. Thank you for your service. Meanwhile, Chick-fil-A announced it is closing its first ever location after almost 60 years at Greenbrier in Atlanta, Georgia. The store will now show permanently closed on the popular chicken restaurants app and local maps when searching for nearby locations, typically only closed on Sundays and major religious holidays or gay pride days. Now this location will be closed for good. I suspect the reasoning behind it, but cannot confirm nor deny as it has not been made available as far as I can tell. And speaking of layoffs, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, or better yet Meta, will begin their next round of layoffs starting tomorrow. The company is expected to lay off lots of employees, and workers are bracing before getting the axe, many of which possibly at risk of being evicted, foreclosed on from late rent payments, past due mortgage payments, and facing eviction and homelessness. Forced to take up residence in their cars, and that is assuming they are not repossessed by the lender after being unable to pay the ever so increasingly higher and higher car payments as a result of record high inflation and the Fed raising interest rates. I mean, we're truly in a mess, and this is a sad state of affairs. Meta's president of global affairs, Nick Clegg, told employees that a third wave is going to happen next week. So basically, you're going to be And this after laying off 11,000 employees last November. Meta later announced job cuts affecting another additional 10,000 workers by the end of May. So come June 1, it won't only be these workers who won't receive paychecks and will be facing unemployment lines, but also those who rely on government subsidies, stimulus, SSA, Social Security, SNAP benefits, VETS, SSI, SSDI, and other fixed income programs, assuming there is no resolution to the debt default budget crisis that just doesn't seem to be a top priority in Congress or the White House for that matter right now. 2 words I'm hearing more and more now are anxiety and uncertainty. And yes, I think we have plenty of it. The stress and overwhelming air of fear is so thick that you can cut it with a knife, metaphorically speaking. Now, I would expect to see more downsizing, more job cuts, more store closures, and more economic pain at home as businesses shrink balance sheets and soften the economy at the direction of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He warned us all this would happen, and he's making good on his promises. He's keeping his word. Meanwhile, Mr. Biden is hanging out in Japan and sending mean text messages to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, but there are claims that the two have spoken and will plan to meet in person to continue negotiations. Kevin McCarthy has made it clear that his position has not changed and that Washington cannot continue to spend money that we do not have at the expense of children and grandchildren. Now, I'm not exactly sure why the kids were brought up in this matter, but maybe it has something to do with Senate Bill 5599. Which is a transgender youth bill targeted in national culture wars, and it expands an existing law to cover minors seeking protected healthcare services, including gender-affirming treatments and mind-altering psychedelic hormone-morphing drugs. Arguably, many loving parents are outraged, and this could be the beginning of an all-out civil war. World War III here, in our backyards, or a possible uprising of the people versus the almighty government. But if they get their way, they will continue to use divisive strategies and continue to control and manipulate the people where they know that they have the most power, the most leverage. And that's with their money. And Now, CBDC has entered the chat as central banks continue to keep buying gold as dollar sanctions shift long-term strategies on currency reserves. Demand for gold among central banks will likely remain strong. Analysts cited elevated geopolitical risks and inflation drive predictions of gold to hit $2,100 soon, and the freezing of Russian currency reserves may have led to a long-term impact on the behavior of central banks. Plus, is it possible that there are 5 new countries all set to join and adopt BRICS currency in 2023? Please stay tuned, like and subscribe for future video updates on the US banking changes happening in private meetings behind closed doors. JP Morgan Chase freezing customers' accounts for specifically targeted reasons. Bank of America leaking personal customer data and information to the FBI, as well as Texas planning to secede and form its own nation and begins by creating their own currency. Now, comment down below if you're interested in gold or want to start investing in gold. I'm just curious and want to get a good read on the room. Oh, and while you're at it, with what was shared and discussed in this video, please let me know what concerns you most and drop a comment down below. And if there are other topics that matter more to you, please share those too so that I can make sure to be as inclusive as possible to everyone. More breaking news and updates coming soon. Thank you guys for watching. Y'all take care, be safe, be kind to one another. I'll see you real soon.